All right, we are live. It is your girl Fallon. I'm back doing one of these streams, which is a bit odd for me. Usually it's just gaming live streams. And this time I have Eli Byrne, who is also my co host for the 13th Hour Gaming Podcast, where we talk about tabletop games, more specifically Pathfinder. But this time we have something a little bit different. Earlier last week, a leak was published about the events and outcome of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us 2. Immediately, people began to publish videos and articles about the topic. Immediately, YouTubers began receiving community strikes, causing removal of privileges such as live streaming and removal of their videos. Many are calling this unfair, that their rights are being trampled. But are they? That's what we're going to discuss here. Right, Eli?
Hello. Okay, up front, I want to get my credentials out there. I am not a lawyer, and so nothing that we cover today should be considered to be legal advice. My background is in business, and I have taken several business law classes, so I have a little bit of insight into the situation, and I'm going to approach it from that angle. I'm discussing purely legal repercussions and legal stance.
All right. With that said, yeah, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any experience in law, but this is I guess you could say, a hot topic right now, and it does relate to gaming, and we will go into that part later on. But the first thing I want to bring up, is it illegal to talk about the content of the leaks?
This is one of those difficult questions to answer because it depends on who's asking. Generally speaking, if you are an individual speaking about this in private, it is fine. It's not illegal to discuss it with your friends. It's not illegal to talk about it in closed chat rooms, things of that nature. That is perfectly legal. The difference is when you go into public and start discussing these. Even if you are still an individual and not technically a business or a content creator, if you go into public and discuss these leaks, that is when it becomes illegal. Now, this includes all social media. Social media is not private. No matter what it is considered legally public. That includes Facebook, that includes Twitter, that includes anything that can be accessed by the public, even if your profiles are set to private. Now, additionally, the one that everybody really wants to talk about is content creators and businesses. Yes, it is illegal to talk about the content of the leaks, and I'll go into more later about that, but it is absolutely illegal for you to talk about anything that is in the leaks, anything that was acquired during the hack, was pulled from Naughty Dog, any of that. It is in fact illegal for you to talk about and to reproduce in any of your videos.
Makes a lot of sense, and why some people are getting those strikes. So I've heard the term corporate espionage all over the place, maybe not specifically on YouTube, but are leaks considered corporate espionage?
Generally speaking, no, unless the person responsible is an employee or a contract worker or somehow affiliated with the business. And that was what was originally assumed about the leaks, but it has since been proven that that's not true. And it was an outside group of people that were responsible for acquiring the leaked information. So in this case, no, it would not be considered corporate espionage. It's acquisition of proprietary information. So everything gained is, in fact, held under copyright law. Now, proprietary information is one of those terms that most people probably are not familiar with. Do you know what that is?
Well, considering I had to look it up, but this is the actual definition. Confidential and proprietary information means that information that is classified as confidential, i.e., not released into public domain, that have intrinsic value to the firm and may provide the firm with competitive advantage, including but not limited to any trade secrets, inventions, whether or not patentable, computer programs, access code, and other system information, technology, and business processes.
Yes, to kind of simplify that down a little bit, essentially any information that the company holds private and confidential that could in any way cause them to have value is considered proprietary information. So generally speaking, that does include unreleased products. Had all of this come out even a couple of weeks after the game was published, if information had been pulled from their servers about previous builds, things like that, that would have been not at that point. But because this information was pulled before the game was officially released, it is considered to be proprietary information.
All right. Which a lot of people complain about that this is fair use, and we will go into like the definition of fair use. But how would what happened with the leak be compared to something most people would be able to understand a little bit better? What would be an example?
I think, and the easiest example would probably be, I think I used this example somewhere else, but say a group of hackers gone into a system and gained private information about users of the system. Credit card information is an easy one to use because everyone immediately understands absolutely not, that's private information. So if a hacker broke into a system and took customer content, including credit card information, and then they pass that on to another person, even if they were not the one who actually stole the information from the system, it is still illegal to use that information because it is not public domain information.
That makes a lot of sense. And we're about to go into the fair use about what it actually is, because do people really understand what fair use? Because a lot of people say, oh, it's a blanket, it'll save me from everything. YouTube won't take it down. That's completely untrue.
It is completely untrue. And YouTube is actually very, very transparent about this. They will, in fact, right there, that is copied from YouTube's 4 factors of fair use directly from their own page.
Oh, yeah.
It is a legal gray area in a lot of cases. There are a lot of people that, what is transformative works? What does that mean, etc. In this case, the important point is point 4.
Oh, yeah, which is the effect of the use upon potential market for or value of for copyrighted work. Uses that harm the copyright's owner ability to profit from his or her original work are less likely to be fair uses. Courts have sometimes made an exemption under the factor in cases involving parodies.
Yes, and this is almost indisputable that by releasing the leaked information and by content creators then using that leaked information in their own works, in their own reviews, their own information, that has absolutely negatively impacted the creator's ability to profit from their work. Anything that was leaked and all of these opinions, all of that, it definitely impacts their ability to profit. And that means that all of this information absolutely does not fall under fair use.
Exactly. And it's, I understand that some people didn't like what was in the content. That's not even what this is about. This is about that it does not follow fair use because all of this information is now killing their companies. That's why Sony and Naughty Dog have been going after people.
Absolutely. And it's because it is 100% going to be cutting into their bottom line. This game will not be as profitable after all of these leaks have come out due to all of that. So they can absolutely prove that this is cut into their profitability. So that is, again, definitely doesn't fall under fair use. And I think it's an important thing to distinguish here is that a lot of people want to talk about this as, well, I'm just reviewing the content or I'm just giving my opinion about the content. And that is fine with information that is public domain. So officially released content is completely open game for opinion pieces and reviews. However, proprietary information is not. So it's not officially released. It's not open game for reviews. And in fact, this is why journalists in larger organizations are given reviewer copies of games before the release dates so that reviews of the games can go live when the games do, but they sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. So they are bound by law not to reveal any information that they get from the game until the release date. So
Exactly.
that's the distinction. They still aren't given the information to release it whenever they want. They can't talk about what they've done. They can't say anything at all about the game until the game comes out and their official reviews are published.
Exactly. And I think one major thing we probably should talk about is what trouble can you get into for using your business to talk about these leaks?
This is where it gets almost a little bit crazy. The most obvious thing that can happen is you can get termination of your accounts on pretty much any social media platform. If the game company wants to go after you, they can definitely get you shut down almost anywhere. YouTube is the obvious one. Everybody's talking about the DMCA strikes and how, etc. If you get 3, you get shut down. You can get shut down just as easily on Twitter. There's been evidence of games going after Discord and having Discord accounts deleted and permabanning people from having Discord accounts. There have been issues with people getting booted off Twitch over content like this. Obviously, it's a lot harder to track people down on Twitch, but it has happened. Generally speaking, any major organization, social media platform is going to err on the side of caution. And if you are violating laws, they're going to ban you rather than risk being involved with that problem. So essentially, you are in risk of having everything terminated over revealing this information. And I found 2 specific, really good examples that are relatively recent cases. The big one that I've seen a lot of people talking about is 2K Games went after YouTuber Supmato over Borderlands 3 leaks. He claimed that he didn't even know the information he was posting was leaked or proprietary. However, 2K Games still hired private investigators. They conducted a 10-month investigation, and they're pressing legal charges against him. He is in a stiff amount of legal trouble over these things that he swears he didn't even know was leaked information. So that benefit, or that right there, is absolutely not worth whatever views he got from the content he put up.
Oh yeah. And it can get scary when just by participating in the whole thing, you could lose your entire business.
Absolutely, and that should be a real concern for people. And that's why it's extremely important that content creators understand the laws that they're operating with, and they need to know what is legal and what is not legal. They need to absolutely understand what fair use means and what fair use does not mean. If you're going to be engaging with content, you have to understand the laws because you are now participating in a world where they apply to you. And ignorance is not a legal defense.
That's true. Get you in real hurt. What was the second example you had for us?
The second one is actually fairly typical. Nintendo is a company that is notorious anti-piracy and anti-copyright infringement. They have always gone after anyone that infringed on their copyright. They've done that forever. Most recently, there were leaks of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that came out several days before the game did. It included story mode information. It included soundtracks. It may have been the entire game, but I'm not sure. I don't 100% remember, but I know that what was happening is that people were posting gameplay footage, they were posting soundtrack tracks, they were posting, reviews and let's plays of the information before it was released. And
oh gosh,
in a blanket movement, Nintendo had thousands of accounts terminated because you get a copyright strike every time for every video. So if you had 3 different videos up for whatever reason, your account's immediately terminated over this one issue. And so many people didn't realize that by uploading the soundtrack before the game came out, by uploading, these reviews, they didn't realize that they were doing things that were going to get their entire business shut down immediately. These were channels that had, 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, and they're just gone and they have no legal defense.
Oh my gosh, that's just crazy. And to bring up, because we didn't mention the DMCA several times.
Oh yeah, the DMCA. I feel like a lot of people have heard about the DMCA, but they don't 100% understand what it is.
Okay, well, it is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which criminalizes the dissemination of copyrighted works, as well as the act of circumventing access control, regardless of whether there was any copyright infringement or not.
The DMCA was passed in 1998, so that's hence why it's named that. And it has essentially just been a guideline that they've kind of been using to evaluate whether something is a copyright infringement or not, especially as at that point, we're beginning to move to the age that was the early days of internet for content creators, things of that nature. And there have been claims that people have made that it's not clear enough. It doesn't have the right amount of verbiage. It doesn't have the correct verbiage to really do what it's supposed to do. However, it is still currently the biggest law governing content creation and copyright law on the internet. Now, in addition to the DMCA, there was a ruling in 2016 by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that actually was a victory for content creators in that the copyright holders were now legally required to consider whether the content they were filing against would fall under fair use. They're now required to give that suitable consideration. Now, obviously, they can't 100% of the time necessarily make the right call on that. But in general, at that point in time, there was a shift for copyright holders and for small content creators. The power dynamic fixed itself a little bit. It's still absolutely there, and it still absolutely favors copyright holders, but it was at least a step in the right direction.
That's really cool. Since we are discussing about the DMCA as related to like copyright and such, there is one comment I had heard several times from a lot of big YouTubers. Is Sony and Naughty Dog exploiting the DMCA by using it to give YouTuber creators copyright strikes? Are they within their right to do so? Or
this is another one of those that it's not a black and white situation. I can guarantee that there are absolutely videos that are getting copyright strikes that aren't getting copyright strikes legitimately. That's kind of always going to happen in circumstances like this. However, the vast majority of videos that are getting copyright strikes are getting them validly. Now, Naughty Dog and Sony are probably going about it in a way that is not especially charitable, but they're still doing it in a way that is legal. Because as we've touched on briefly, anything that has leaked content in it, including written and verbal information that is as part of the leaks. So even if you are just talking about the spoilers that were pulled, that is still part of the leaked content that is still falling under copyright violations.
Jeez. Oh gosh. Do you think
Now,
they're going to stop with the going after once the game is released itself?
yes, I think at that point they probably will. If only because at that point in time it would be more difficult to determine what information was gained from proprietary sources anyway. So at that point, I think that it will taper off or end. However, I would not be surprised if they did not seek legal repercussions against certain people that have been multiple time offenders. And I absolutely believe that once they have identified the people responsible for the hacking, they will be prosecuted. I about guarantee that based on the various news statements that they.
You think they're gonna that they will go after YouTubers in the courts, the ones that are the multiple offenders?
I think it's fairly likely. It kind of depends, in my opinion, on how this plays out in the next few weeks. Whether the situation kind of dies off or if it continues to blow up. Honestly, I kind of think that this is going to turn into one of those circumstances that's going to go quietly into the night in a couple of weeks. Because who really remembers the 2K games incident? Who really remembers the Nintendo Smash Brothers incident? I think this is going to be no different. than that. However, like I said, it's kind of up in the air. But I do think that they are going to go after anyone they can identify as a major contributor to the situation. Just like 2K Games has said that they're going after Submato because it's a deterrent. They're trying to make an example. You can't get away with this. We're pursuing legal action to the full extent of law.
Makes sense. So what do you think would be the takeaway from this entire situation?
I think that the most important thing that you need to take away from this situation is if you are a content creator on the internet, there are complex laws that you must be aware of to protect yourself. There are stiff legal repercussions for not abiding by these laws, and ignorance is not a legal defense. Even if you are a small-time hobbyist content creator, you must be aware of the laws and your own legal rights. You have to know when it's appropriate for you to be standing up and fighting against these situations, and you have to know before you take these actions if the actions you're taking are legal. You are operating within a legal structure, and you must participate in a legal way. And this is something that I think is very important. It does not matter how big your channel is. Everyone needs to know the rules. Everyone needs to know the laws. Everyone needs to know what YouTube's terms of service are. Everyone needs to know what Discord's terms of service are. If you are in any way producing and putting content online, you need to know what's going on. That's even more important, I think, than the content you are producing is your ability to protect yourself legally.
Yeah, I think that is something everyone needs to be aware of. I know a lot of people ignore the terms of service. They're like, okay, terms of service, click, click, click. Okay, let's register.
Well, in a lot of cases, that really doesn't impact you very much. I mean, who really using Spotify, I don't know what their terms of service are. I don't know what their terms of use are, but I can guarantee you almost certainly that I have never violated them because I'm not in a situation where I'm doing risky, crazy things with it. But YouTube, you're putting your own original creative works there. You need to know that what you're creating is legal because YouTube will turn around and say, okay, well, that's illegal, and we're not here to support you. YouTube previously, something that we didn't touch on, but I read about recently, YouTube has been held legally responsible for the content on their website. A German court in 2010 ruled that YouTube is 100% responsible for everything that is on their website, all of the content that is uploaded. So it should surprise no one that YouTube has no qualms shutting down and removing content that is illegal in any way.
Oh, Eli, somebody just posted something on here. I want your opinion on this.
Sure.
Section 107, the fact that a work is unpublished shall not itself bar a finding of fair use if such finding is made upon consideration of all above factors.
Yes, and that is what a lot of people are falling back on. However, we did touch on the fourth factor that is used in determining fair use in U.S. courts, the effect of the use upon the potential market or value of the copyrighted work. Uses that harm the copyright owner's ability to profit from his or her own work are less likely to be fair use. So in the situation here, it is undeniable that Naughty Dog is losing the ability to profit from this work because of the leak. So therefore, all of the leaked information would not be considered fair use.
All right. Is there anything extra you would like to add on? I'm sure there's quite a bit that could be touched on.
I mean, you probably can continue talking about this for a considerable amount of time, but I think we've kind of covered the major issues and major concerns that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if y'all have any questions, be sure to comment down below. This will be a weekly live stream. We don't have a set day or a set time, but we will be talking about media laws, how copyright laws relate to gaming itself. But we appreciate y'all coming by. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications on all the streams that we do. And we will catch you on the flip side.